Hey folks, and welcome back to part 2 of our Mull adventure. This one gets really exciting. But first, a recap of the last video. We came over to Mull to try and find eagles, and although we've seen a lot of really good birds, including 2 brief sightings of white-tailed eagles and some fantastic red-throated divers amongst many other species, bad weather has plagued us almost all of the time, even causing our boat trip, the main reason we came up here, to be cancelled. Luckily it got rescheduled, and that's where we were heading now. We arrived at Ulva ferry port in reasonably calm weather, and currently with no rain. We parked up and joined the short queue. There were 2 boats leaving at 2 o'clock, one of them, the smaller one, was ours. It was called the Lady Jane. Excited, we were soon loaded onto the boat and off around the coast. We booked this trip through Mull Charters. Their details are in the description, and they were excellent. As we headed out, they told us about some of the wildlife we may see on this trip, including hopefully good views of white-tailed eagles, other seabirds like gannets and kittiwakes, possibly some dolphins, and maybe, if we're lucky, even a whale. This information made Kaylee very excited, as she's always wanted to see a whale. So, spirits were high, even though the rain had started again. Soon though, Kaylee got her wish. We spotted in the distance the fin of a minke whale breaching the water. It did this a few times and then disappeared, but that was enough. Kaylee was so excited she was in tears, but this was just the beginning. As almost immediately after seeing the whale, we were joined by an enormous white-tailed eagle flying low over the boat. This deeply impressive bird circled round us for a few moments, giving us some of the closest views we've ever had of this species. It then dived down towards the water to pick up a fish off the surface. This was absolutely incredible to see, a really special moment. Everyone on the boat was really excited. At the same time the eagle was coming in, there was dolphins around the boat as well. Unfortunately though, they disappeared. Luckily, we did see some later on, so keep watching for that. For now though, we headed up Loch na Keal, passing a young white-tailed eagle sat on a rock, and further up, a few seals. There are 2 species of seal around Mull, the harbour seal or common seal, and the grey seal. Unfortunately, I don't know enough to tell you which ones these are, but feel free to comment. We continued on past an island called Inchkenneth, I hope I've pronounced that right, and past a flock of feeding kittiwakes. Further up, as we were almost at the end of the island, the boat stopped, as the captain noticed a bird of prey hunting. After a quick scan, we picked out the female Hen Harrier, a bird of prey species we've only actually ever seen a handful of times. We're lucky in North Wales to have some breeding not far from where we live, but they're not always easy to find. Here on Mull they are resident, so are seen all year round. This species, although being a British breeder, is not common, with only about 600 breeding pairs, and the numbers have been declining. This species is now red listed, and is noted as UK's most persecuted bird of prey. We watched this female Hen Harrier, or sometimes known as ringtails due to the white ring around the base of the tail, for a short time. She flew around, once landed, and then continued to hunt. At the same time we were watching the Hen Harrier, the captain on the boat spotted an otter feeding along the shoreline. This animal wasn't always the easiest to get in the camera because it spent quite a lot of time underwater, but that small dark shape bobbing up and down in my footage is, yes, an otter. As we travelled further up the loch, we were joined by more white-tailed eagles, this time flying low over the water towards the boat. The captain told us the 2 birds approaching us were a breeding pair. The white-tailed eagle is the UK's biggest bird of prey, and it's nicknamed the Flying Barn Door. And you can see why. This species went extinct in the UK when the last one here was shot in 1918. In 1975, the white-tailed eagle was introduced back into Britain on the island of Rum. 10 years later, in 1985, there was the first successful breeding, here on Mull. Now, there's around 150 breeding pairs, with more reintroduction schemes going on the south coast. But for now, we were having some absolutely breathtaking views of these birds coming down for fish that the captain had thrown in. This boat trip was becoming very memorable. We soon left these feeding eagles behind and moved on, along a high cliff face, where we saw yet more birds of prey. There were 3 that were circling. One was a kestrel I didn't get on film. The other here was another female hen harrier. This was soon joined by one of the white-tailed eagles. That's something you don't see every day. A kestrel, a hen harrier and an eagle all circling in the same spot. That is mental. This amazing boat trip continued along towards the mouth of the loch, where, as promised, we started to see more dolphins. Initially, these dolphins were in the distance, but started to come towards the boat. The closer they got, the more excited Olivia became. As the boat carried on, the dolphins came closer and then went further away, but were never a great distance away. A few minutes later, the captain stopped the boat and asked if anyone wanted cups of tea, which, of course, was extremely welcome. This was when the dolphins started coming even closer and playing around really close to the boat. We stayed positioned here in our floating cafe for about 15 or 20 minutes, watching the dolphins and drinking our tea. This was quite a surreal moment, and became even more surreal looking out over the water to a fantastically bright rainbow. The species of dolphin we're seeing here is the common dolphin, and as its name suggests, is the most common cetacean in the world. Cetacean covers dolphins, porpoises and whales. In the UK, at least 7 species of dolphin have been seen in British waters, although some of these are rare, and the commonest species to be seen around the coasts of the UK are the common dolphin, like these, and the bottle-nosed dolphin. Dolphins generally travel around in groups. These are called pods. These pods can be anything from a few individuals up to hundreds. Today, it was difficult to say how many there were, but they were giving everyone a hell of a show. Sometimes coming so close to the boat we could almost touch them. One guy held a GoPro on a stick under the boat and got some fantastic footage of them swimming around. This experience so far was proving magical. Now though, we left this friendly pod of dolphins behind and carried on our journey. At this point, I was wondering how this could get any better. Luckily though, this charter company really seemed to know what they were doing and appeared to have a plan. We started following a group of gannets that were flying up the loch. We soon found out where they were going. There was obviously a large amount of fish in one area, as there were both dolphins and gannets, and amongst them plenty of other seabirds too. Apparently the dolphins bring the shoal to the surface, and the gannets and other seabirds take advantage of this by picking off any fish they can get to. The only difference between the gannets and the other seabirds is the gannets do it in style. They fly up into the air and then in groups plunge dive into the water to catch fish. These birds are well adapted to this, not only being waterproof and having very streamlined bodies, but they also have strong neck muscles and a spongy bone plate at the base of the beak. This helps dampen the impact when they hit the water at high speed. Although gannets do breed in Scotland, they don't breed in Mull. All of these birds here have come to Mull especially to feed, which is a testament to the amount of sea life here. Gannets are the UK's largest seabird, and although they breed all across the North Atlantic, the UK is extremely important for this species, as 2/3 of the world population nest around the British Isles. The UK gannet population was severely affected by the bird flu in 2022, with thousands of birds being lost. Now though, thankfully the populations are starting to recover. Fascinatingly, a notable sign that a Gannets had bird flu and survived is the colour of its eye. Generally, the iris is a vibrant blue, but on individuals that have survived bird flu, the iris is black. Regardless, these birds are absolutely incredible. And today, seeing them like this, diving into the water, being joined by other seabirds and dolphins too, was really quite a spectacle and a real privilege to watch. One personal highlight from this boat trip was seeing a Manx Shearwater. As I'm not great on the sea, I've never done a pelagic trip or anything like that, so generally don't get much opportunity to see seabirds like this. So when I do, I absolutely love it. Please comment on the video if you also suffer from seasickness but have done a pelagic trip. Tell me if it was worth doing and how you combated going green. Now though, we didn't have much longer on our boat trip, and although I'd done pretty well for most of the boat trip, I had felt a bit queasy twice. But luckily I was out in the fresh air and I was distracted by a fantastic array of animals and birds. Before we headed back to dry land, the captain wanted to head out to the mouth of the loch, in the hope that we might get another view of the minke whale that we saw at the start of the boat trip. The minke whale is the smallest and most common whale species in British waters, and is most often seen in summer and early autumn. And although all of us scanned the water pretty thoroughly, we couldn't re-find it. Despite this, we were super happy to have seen it earlier, Kaylee especially, because this is the first whale she'd ever seen. We now slowly began heading back to the harbour. En route, we passed where the gannets were fishing before. Most of these birds had disappeared and been replaced by a large flock of kittiwakes. The dolphins, though, remained. As we continued with Mull's amazing backdrop surrounding us, we got a goodbye flyover from a juvenile white-tailed eagle. This one didn't come down for the fish that the captain threw in. It obviously hasn't learnt yet that boats can mean food. Regardless, seeing this eagle seemed a very, very fitting way to end what had been a brilliant boat trip. Not only had we had the fantastic views of sea eagles that we were wanting, we also had dolphins coming up to the boat, we saw a whale, hen harriers, gannets diving, the list goes on. This was so worth waiting to the end of the week for. And an experience that I'd recommend for anyone coming to the island. It was truly special. Hey folks, despite us getting wet and me feeling sick twice, that was absolutely breathtaking.
That was the most incredible thing I think we've ever done.
Yeah, that was the just like
dolphins.
There were well, yeah, you'll see the footage. It's just phenomenal. Dolphins.
Like something off David Attenborough.
Yeah, dolphins under the boat, gannets fishing, sea eagles taking fish off the water. It's just unbelievable. That's one of the best wildlife experiences I think I've ever had. Yeah, Mull Charters, get on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, we'd like to recommend Mull Charters, and the information for them will be in the description for the video. We now still absolutely blown away by all we'd seen on that boat trip, headed towards the north of the island to go from Mull. This meant returning to Tobermory, and when we arrived we were greeted by another wonderfully colourful rainbow. Hey folks, after such an amazing day so far, my mum has donated us some money to go out for a meal. So, thanks mum.
Thank you, Nanny. Thank you.
We're off for an Indian. We headed round the harbour, past the herons and all the gulls, towards an Indian restaurant we'd booked. This seemed a great way to celebrate our amazing boat trip, and also the last night of our visit to Mull.
Happy?
Very happy. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. You had a good day?
You've had a brilliant day.
Absolutely.
We enjoyed what was a delicious meal, and stuffed we headed back towards the van and drove to our overnight spot, knowing our alarms were going to go off really early in the morning so we could catch our ferry back to Oban. And really early it was. The alarms went off at 5 in the morning. We all got dressed and ready and headed towards the port. Hey folks, it's early and we're at the harbour ready to sail back to Oban. But Mull has been just fantastic.
Stunning.
Even though the weather's not always been in our favour, it's been terrific.
It's been so much fun, isn't it?
Yeah. My voice is weird, it's too early for this.
It is too early. But we're going to head off to Oban now, grab some breakfast and make our next move. So stick with us.
Food.
See you on the other side. We were soon loaded on the ferry and underway. Although it was still early and a bit breezy and cold, we stood on the deck. As the ferry left the harbour, we waved, as if to say goodbye to Mull. But it wasn't goodbye. It was more, so long, see you next year. Despite the weather being generally terrible, we'd had a truly great time. Not only had we seen loads of fantastic birds, including the sea eagles that we'd gone for, we'd seen great wildlife, and of course, we'd had that absolutely phenomenal boat trip. Mull itself is dramatic and truly spectacular. Somewhere that is quite hard to leave. But we did have to go. And not only that, we were starving and busting for a cup of tea. So when we arrived at Oban, we headed to Wetherspoons. We ate a very welcome full Scottish breakfast. Had a couple of cups of tea. Then the girls went and did some final bits of shopping, where I looked at some of the gulls and other birds around the harbour before we headed off. Eventually though, it was time to leave. Although we did have some plans, as we didn't have to be home until the following evening. This plan was a bit crazy and involved heading somewhere for a couple more target species for our year list. Look out for that though in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. We really hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed the boat trip. Please like, please subscribe, and please press the notification bell. We'll see you next time for more birding adventures.